अमन,
हाँ
अमन,
हाँ हाँ
तुम्हारी यूट्यूब का लिंक जो है ग्रुप पे भेजियो।
एक सेकंड मैं तो
All right, everyone. So we'll start off. And good afternoon, everyone. So welcome to the session. This is being organized by DSC that's Developer Students Club by Dronacharya College of Engineering. And we have Mr. Shashank here as our speaker for the day. So I'll hand over it to him and he'll take off. So please write your doubts in the chat box and nothing else should be there. Any other discussions won't be entertained. And please keep yourselves on mute, keep your mics mute and cameras off. All right. Over to you, sir.
Oh, okay. Am I audible, Sejal?
Yes, sir.
Hey, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, welcome to this session on a Sunday afternoon. I hope that you're all safe and doing good. So let me share my screen. Just let me know if you are able to see. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So to set the context right now, so what do you think we are talking about today? Anyone? Okay, so let me start with a couple of questions to set the mood little light. Don't be so serious. You can keep answering here in the chat. So, who is the Indian god of clouds? Any guesses? I cannot give you chocolates here, but you can take a guess. I'm not able to see the chats. Sejal, maybe you can answer if somebody is replying.
Sure, sir. Actually, nobody has written anything. You can unmute yourself and answer, please, everyone. Indra, Sarthak has written Indra Dev.
Yeah, absolutely correct. So, who is Greek god of,
Indradev.
who is Greek god of clouds?
Zeus.
Yeah, right. That is true. Yeah. So welcome, like I said, to this session. So here we'll talk about how you can quicken your cloud journey, right? So this is the buzzword of 2020, right, or 2019 onwards. This is the buzzword you are hearing, right? Cloud computing. So everyone talks about cloud computing, cloud journey, Google Cloud, Amazon Cloud, Azure Cloud. So what exactly we are looking at when we talk about cloud journey? How do you start your cloud journey, how you can start leveraging certain tools to get into your cloud journey and ensuring that you are doing all the cloud related tasks smoothly. So this is what we are going to look at in this presentation. So first of all, myself, I am Shashank Barki. I am based out of Bangalore. I work for a company called Manhattan Associates. So I work as a principal cloud engineer over there. To set the agenda right now, so we look at W3H, right? So what is the W3H? What, where, why, how, right? So we will look at what, where, why, how about cloud computing in general. We will look at how we can leverage Qwiklabs in particular, and we will look at a demo. We'll have a small quiz, and we can conclude with the Q&A session right at the end. So you can always reach out at me with you can directly reach out using my Twitter handle. So if you want to discuss anything on cloud computing, Google cloud related stuff, if you have any specific questions which we are not able to answer today, you can always tweet me. I will ensure that I will get back to you very soon. Okay, what is cloud computing? So this is the image, right? So is this what cloud computing is all about, right? Somebody just typing on something on his laptop. Maybe there is a cloud above his head. Maybe now at this particular stage, maybe there might be a fan here, that's all. But this is not what cloud computing is, right? So, and if you have probably come across this buzzword about cloud computing, no? So you might be knowing, right? In a classic architecture, you have something called as application layer, you have database, you have networking, you have storage, you have communication layers, you have various set of layers, right? So you have something called as front end, there is something called as middle tier, there is something called as database or the back end. So this is how a classic application looks like in general, right? So when we talk about cloud computing, so we are looking at having all these things under one cloud, something which kind of encompasses all the layers, right? You have networking, you have compute, you have database, you have various applications, you have storage. So all these things come under one umbrella here, right? So you can think like one cloud which kind of encompasses everything which we are seeing in this diagram. So, and then what are all the various kind of utilities you use to access, right? In general, it could be your laptops, it could be your telephone, sometimes it could be your servers. Usually on a classic model, what happens, you have a server which has multiple clients talking to it. So there is a kind of handshake between the client and server, right? So that's how it works in a normal architecture. So when we talk about cloud computing, we have all these things under one umbrella. So that is the beauty about cloud computing. So, but why do you even need to worry or learn cloud computing? No, it's the buzzword, no? So this is like one classic example where dad is telling his son not to worry about anything else, just learn about cloud computing for his future, right? So, and then there is another one where a student has written cloud as the answer for all the questions because that's what his father had told him, right? So is this the reason why we are learning cloud computing? Absolutely not, right? So we look at the benefits, right? So when we talk about cloud computing, there are like, these are very few, but these are the major benefits, I would say, but there are far more. If you want to explore more, you can always do that. So one major thing I would say is like total lower cost of ownership. So what do you mean by lower cost of ownership? So in your typical business world, so you always talk about what is the kind of output you are getting from a specific product and what is the kind of ownership or the cost of ownership you have when you want to kind of use this particular product for a vendor as well as for the end user, right? So for example, now it could be something like you are using some kind of a app, let us say an app, photo sharing app as an example, no? So now you being an end user here, you would be looking at storing your photos. Maybe let us say you have thousands of photos which you are not able to save in your laptop or your mobile. Your mobile is running out of storage. So you want to store it somewhere. So what do? So now you have an option where you can save it online, right? So let us say that there is a provider who saves these particular photos, and what do you get benefit out of it? Maybe let's say there are some kind of benefits, like something like you pay, let's say 500 rupees per year. and you get about 1 terabyte of storage as an example. So now what is that you are getting out of it is like you are leaving that part of owning the photo to the cloud, right? So you are not worried about whether the cloud is really maintaining the photos, or there is a guarantee that that photo will never get lost, right? So if it's there in your mobile, let's say you lose your mobile or mobile software crashed, something like that, no, you would probably lose the photos which you had saved, which probably is very dear to you. But when it's saved somewhere in an app, which in turn is saved in cloud world, it's always safe. And the beauty of it is like there will be kind of a guarantee, right? So they will ensure that you have this particular photo which will never get deleted. So there will be different multiple copies of photos which will be saved internally in the cloud computing world. So I mean, that's just an example. So now you may ask, hey, what about the security? What if somebody, let's say, hacks your drive and tries to steal your photos and things like that, right? So there are various ways you can even control that. So cloud computing even provides a lot of security as well. So that is one more aspect where your photos are saved forever till the time you wish to delete it yourself, and multiple copies of your photos are saved across different regions. We'll look at what are regions and things like that little later. And then you can always ensure that this cloud computing app which you have is always up. So what do you mean by always up? So if in case you have a mobile, let's say it runs out of charge, obviously you cannot see your photo. But in the cloud computing world, this particular photo will be available for you to access from anywhere. You can be either it will be accessible from your mobile phone or your laptop, or let's say your iPad, anywhere, right? It's always up. So, and that is the beauty of saving it somewhere which is not in your let's say in your phone or your computer. So, and there is something called as disaster resistance. So what do you mean by that? So let us say you lose your phone. Let's say your phone breaks, or the drive which you are using, the storage drive, gets corrupted, or somebody steals your phone. So these are all the classic examples of disaster, right? You would have probably lost this particular photo which was really, really important for you. So now, but if you had it saved in cloud computing world or somewhere in an app which is hosted in cloud, it is providing you a disaster assistance. So it will ensure that, let's say, even one particular region where your photo was hosted goes down, it will be backed up and you will not lose any of your photos. And then if you look at it, there is no maintenance cost. Say, for example, what do you mean by maintenance cost? If you had these photos saved in your mobile and said you wanted to take some kind of a printout, like in the earlier days, no, where there were no concept of a digital photo, people used to take the photo reels, probably print that and keep it in albums, right? So what would have happened if the album gets, let's say, stolen, or the photos become kind of lose that shine over a period of time? So you would lose those things, right? So, and you had to probably invest on the album itself, or the print copy which you have to take it from some shops, right? So these are all the things you have to pay extra. But here in the digital world, you have you don't need to give any money apart from the storage cost, which is very, very minimal. So you don't need to worry about anything else. And when I say IT maintenance, this is like just an example I'm taking, but this is not IT maintenance. But you don't need to go and buy an album, or let's say pay somebody who takes printout of these things, go to a lab of a studio where they give you a printout. All these things are all taken off from your plate, right? So you don't need to worry about what's happening behind the scenes, how the cloud computing provider, how he's saving the photos for you. You are not worried. So you are like, you can be 100% rest assured that, hey, my photos are safe somewhere in cloud, so I don't need to worry. I can access it anytime. It is always up. I pay very less cost for the maintenance of the photo. I can always go and download it, or I can go and add more photos if in case my package gives me enough kind of bandwidth or storage, right? So you can always have these benefits. So this is just an example of an app which was a photo app for you. Now let's try to make it little more expansive. No, just think of creating your own software. Maybe a lot of you might have probably thought of creating your own apps, or maybe starting your own companies. So now when you are someone who is a startup, so you want to go and start building something on your own. So what was the major problem earlier, right? So in software industry was the infrastructure, right? So that is a major one. So you have to set up the data centers. You had to kind of go and get people who work on specific areas, right? So you had to get people from networking teams, people from, let's say, application teams or database teams, put them all together in one under one roof, have all kind of data centers ready with all these LAN WAN cables, like you might have seen in your labs, right? So there are so many data centers. If something gets corrupted, then you will have to probably do a lot of circus to get the data back. So these were all the major difficulties for anybody who had to start their own on their own, right? So the infrastructure was always a problem. So now circa 2013 or 2012 onwards, where cloud computing came into more limelight and spotlight, right? So if you look at what are the major benefits we got out of it, so anybody, right, any one of you, right, individually or as a group, can start building your own softwares or your own applications or your own companies. So now the best part of it is you only need to have an idea, you need to only know what you are building. There are options available in cloud computing to help you get all the infrastructure and the support. So you are giving that kind of heavy lifting to the cloud providers. So you are only worried on your idea, right? So your idea which needs to be implemented, or your app which gives the ABCD benefit to the end world, right? So you don't need to worry about anything else. So that is one thing which is a major takeaway. If you want to, from this session, you can think like you can build anything if it's an idea which you can kind of envision and come up with. There are tools in cloud world which gives you a lot of options, and it's very much kind of feasible for you. Of course, there is a cost associated with it. There are always other options to reduce cost and get things done. So now let us say that let's take the same example of photo app. Let's say you want to build some kind of app to kind of let's say do some kind of modifications to a photo. Like say you might be seeing, right, like some kind of adding emojis or maybe changing the facial features of a person, things like that, like an app which you wanted to build, so, or which you have probably thought of building now. So now if you want to build this in your cloud world, what are the benefits you get? So you don't need to worry about a lot of things, like you don't need to have a data center, you don't need to have an IT team looking at the things, you don't need to set up somebody who will be looking at how the data is saved in the backend, and whether I need to back up this data into some drive and then store it somewhere and ensure that the data does not get lost. Things like that you don't need to do. So what you are only concentrating on is the idea itself, right? So that is a major benefit. And one more thing you need to know is something called as upgradation here. So software industry, in every 2 years, as per Murphy's law, a lot of things gets upgraded, right? So probably 5 years back, cloud computing had not kind of taken off the way it is now. Maybe 2 years down the line, it could be something else. So now when we talk about new terminologies, new things coming into market, you need to understand that the software also keeps evolving. So maybe if you had probably used your laptops, let's say 5 or 8 years from now, probably you might have used something like a Windows XP, or maybe back if you guys had heard about Windows 98, DOS. So these were all the operating systems back in the day. Now you have various Windows 9, Windows 10. These are all the latest software. So software and hardware grows kind of exponentially every 2 years, right? So even the Intel chips or AMD AMRO chips have kind of gone or come very far, right? Like if you look at how it used to support earlier, it used to be in terms of KBs, kilobytes, then it became MB, GB. Now they are talking about terabytes, petabytes, right? So that's how the storage is evolving. So the storage is the hardware part of it. So similarly, you would have all these kind of chips, right? You might probably have studied in your colleges on maybe something called embedded systems. Those things are probably undergoing various changes. So that is how the hardware is evolving. So when the hardware evolves, software in turn does evolve, right? So you can look at maybe the kind of storage you are getting in your mobile phones itself. You have, let's say, 64 MB RAM or 128 GB RAM, right? So and then you have and it's like kind of unlimited. The growth seems to be like it keeps on changing every 2 years. So now if you are a company which has developed an app, which was using Windows 10. And let's say 3 years from now, this Windows 10, probably Microsoft themselves have gone to, let's say, Windows 15 after 5 years, right? So now if you are having an off-center company with the data center and teams, you had to go back and upgrade the software and then rewrite the binaries and change the code base all over again. So now that is something which would take multiple months, right? So, and this is in this world where the competition is really, really tight, you cannot give 5 months for your software to get evolved. So you have to do that right away. So when there is another version of Windows available, you have to ensure that particular app or software you have built is compatible with that particular software at that time. So now if you are a software company and if you want to do it yourself, if you ask me whether you can do, answer is yes, of course you can do. But just imagine the kind of pain you have to undergo, the kind of teams you have to have with you. That is again something which you have to keep in mind. So now instead of that, let's say you had kind of a cloud provider giving you this kind of benefits. The advantage is in the back end. So the cloud provider provides you a lot of options to upgrade the software. So you don't need to do that. Like I said, idea is yours, app is yours, all the heavy lifting, you can give it to the cloud provider, right? And then, like I said, it's like anybody can use the software across, right? So let's say you have built an app. Nowadays you might have seen, right? So the app might be resting somewhere in, let's say, somewhere in US region, the app itself. But there will be something called as content delivery network, CDNs, right? So there will be CDN points across the globe. So you will have one, let's say, in New Delhi, let's say, and you have one in Mumbai, and you have one in Singapore, maybe let's say 4 or 5 in Asia itself. You have these CDNs. So the end user who uses your app would not get any kind of latency or slowness. So they would not even know that where this particular feed is coming from. So they would feel, if you are using the app in New Delhi and let's say you go next month to somewhere in Europe, and you don't get that kind of lag there also. So there itself, the same kind of software, whatever was hosted in Delhi, there is a copy of it somewhere in Europe as well. So that is what it is. That's something like, you can call it as something like productivity anywhere. So wherever you host, it's like one point, and there is no single point of failure. It's not like, let's say some disaster happened somewhere in Mumbai region where they had to shut down the data center. So what would happen? You cannot bring the business down. Okay, let's say the business comes on, but it can be for maximum of few hours, if not more. So in that particular time, you can always recover and get something from the Delhi region and make sure that that particular app is up and running. So that is the benefit you get out of it, right? So if you look at it at a vast level, there are various benefits in cloud computing. So it's just a matter of you exploring or getting into more deep dive of this particular subject. So now, okay, now this is the next classic question. Okay, I know what is cloud computing at high level. I know that there are a lot of benefits if I use cloud computing, but hey, how do I know which vendor to use? Hey, do I really need to go and search in the market, Google and try to understand what's happening? Okay, so then these two software engineers, right? So they were like part of a team. I would say these two are executives. So they were not sure which particular provider to choose. Probably they're playing some dart game and throwing some kind of darts and trying to understand, right, which particular vendor they want to choose, right? So this is Google, right? So we are not talking about anything else. So obviously, Google Cloud Computing is what we are talking about. So now Google Cloud Computing is one of the leading providers of cloud in general. I think if you look at the growth which Google Cloud has had in last 3 years, they have either beaten the market or are been on par compared to other vendors like Azure, AWS, Oracle, etc. So like I said, if you look at the application and the entire software as a whole, there are something called as services majorly. You have something called as compute, storage, networking, data, and services as such. So these are all the major jargons you would be hearing all along from now on. So as soon as you get into industry, or if you are doing your masters and things like that, you would be hearing these things only. So somewhere among these particular platforms, you will fit in. Since you are from, I mean, if I can assume correctly, I assume that you are all from computer science background. So you would probably fit in one among these particular jargon areas, right? So you could become, let's say a network expert, you could become a programmer, you could become a database administrator, you could become someone like who looks after all the applications, right? Java code, maybe Go language or Python, stuff like that. So all these things fall under 6-7 categories only. Or you could be part of something called as a networking team, right? Where you look after the traffic and you know how to connect the LAN wires and how to ensure that the particular things are safe, secure, the data is not moving anywhere outside your software or your app, nobody is hacking it, things like that, right? So these are all the 4, 5, 6 major areas, right? You look at. So when we talk about Google Cloud, so even Google Cloud provides excellent services for each one of these areas. So you have something called as compute. So we will have a very small walkthrough of what exactly we are looking at. Maybe if I tell you at this high level, probably you can go back and study a little bit more whenever you get time, right? So you have something called as compute. Compute is nothing but the virtual machines. So when I say virtual machine, just imagine something like this, right? So this is the virtual world, right? So we all have our particular laptop, and you want to, let's say, create something like a one compute machine. So when compute machine, you will not go and buy another laptop, right? So that is not how software works. You won't go and buy another laptop and try to connect that to your application. That is the old way of doing it, right? So now you do everything called as virtually. So you have something called as compute engine. So when you say compute engine, it's a virtual machine. It is something which has its own kind of CPUs, or it would be having X amount of RAM and storage. It all comes in as a package. So Google Cloud provides you this kind of virtual machines wherein you host your apps. So your app, the code base or the binaries will be there in the compute engine. And the compute engine will have its own set of configurations, like I said, similar to what you have in laptop. So, and then you have something called as app engine, which is like something like you get it as a package where it will be pre-installed with software and things like that. You can right away write the code. So you don't need to even worry, hey, what is happening in my virtual machine? What are all the things installed? Once you get a virtual machine, obviously you have to go and install your softwares and things like that. No, you have to install, let us say, some kind of Linux version which is compatible to your software which you are writing, or let's say Python version. Instead of that, you don't even want to do that kind of task, right? So you want to just get an inbuilt machine which has everything where you write your code, right? So that is what it is. So now there is something called as cloud storage. So storage is something which is really, really important concept. If you want to get more into it, I would recommend you go and read a little bit of cloud data storage. It's very interesting topic. The main advantage here is like it gives you kind of unlimited kind of storage. So you can go ahead and take some kind of data storage from the Google Cloud. You can save anything and everything over there. So it need not be like your personal data here, your softwares, even it could be something related to your entire code base. Everything can be saved. So you can even have these software binaries. For example, you might have used let's say platforms like Anaconda and all, if you are probably familiar with Python. So let's say this Jupyter notebooks, you want to save it somewhere. So you have written a lot of code. So you can do all those things in data storage. And you can save raw files as well as you can save your code. You can save your software binaries. You can save your, let's say, zip files and things like that. And then you have managed databases also. So if you are familiar with the database world, it's usually either relational or non-relational. And in both worlds, right? So Google Cloud provides option for you to leverage the database where you write the code, right? So you don't go and install the database per se. Let's say there are like certain database vendors, very famous like Oracle, and there are something called as MySQL, SQL Server, right? So these are all relational databases in general. So all these things come as a built-in services for you in the cloud world. So in Google Cloud SQL, it primarily supports MySQL and Postgres, right? So it doesn't support Oracle yet because Google and Oracle are still competing for that space, right? So, but you can always install Oracle software in your compute engine. That option is always there. So you can get your own virtual machine, have an Oracle license, install this database over there, and you can leverage it. So, and then there is something called as when you talk about networking. So networking is really, really vast concept. So if there are some of you who are interested in networking, I would suggest you go back and read about the concepts like load balancing. So what does load balancing, right? So it's all self-explanatory, lot of things. I mean, behind the scenes, there are some kind of complexities, but if you want to just know at a high level, it's simple. No, you can imagine like how you are distributing load among your virtual machines. Let's say your app, let's say you might have probably heard about apps like Dream 11 and all in this IPL day, right? So how does Dream 11 kind of ensure that all the users are not getting jammed when they are using app, especially the day when the big matches are there? There would be more people getting into the system, so they would be trying to form their team and save it or play it with their friends and stuff like that. That is where the traffic kind of increases 5 times, 20 times, 50 times their normal usage. On a normal day, there may not be too many people using Dream 11, but on a specific game day or match day, you would have millions of users coming into the system. So when you have these kind of things, you would need to have a lot of capacity, right? System should handle this kind of load. So how do you do that, right? So if you were again having your own set of softwares, you had to have multiple set of virtual machines with numerous amount of CPUs, memory and storage, stuff like that. But in your cloud world, you can use the options which are provided by Google, and you can use something called as load balancing. So load balancing is something like it always diverts the load, and it auto scales. Something called as auto scaling is also there. So looking at the load, it knows when to spin up a new virtual machine and when to kind of terminate it. So these are all the benefits you get when you use networking with Google Cloud. And along with that, there are various other features available for big data. You have something called as BigQuery. It's something like you don't need to have a database. You can run your queries against a set of let's say CSV files or JSON files. You can directly query against them. So you can write your normal SQL, and you can even use something like Google Cloud Translate. It translates language A to B. Let's say you want to develop an app which does a translation. You can use this directly. And there are excellent features available even for machine learning. Some of the things I have not gone in depth, but you can always explore. So then there is something called as Google Cloud Developers Sheet. So maybe I would be sending you at the end of the session all these kind of links which you can go back and study whenever you get time. So there is something called as Developers Cheat Sheet. This is also not the recent most, because it keeps evolving, right? Like I said, cloud world evolves very quickly. So you are whatever services you are seeing it here, some of them have even evolved further, and some of them have had their brothers and sisters added here. So storage has 4 here, but now it might be another 2 by the time you go and explore, right? So this is ever changing. So if I want to give you a very high end level analogy, right? So you can think like, so how many of you have used Uber and Ola? I don't know, in Delhi and in the place where you are, probably Uber is famous, or Ola. I don't know if there's any other app. So most of you would be familiar with it, right? So just imagine, no, whenever you are explaining cloud computing to your younger brother or your parents or somebody, you know, who's just not a techie or geek like you, but they want to really understand what is happening when you talk about cloud computing. So you can give an example. You can tell, hey, do you know Ola or Uber cabs? So what is the benefit if you are using Ola or Uber cabs? So what are all the benefits you are getting? So you don't need to own a car, right? First of all, that investment is not even there. You don't need to buy a car which is, let's say, X lakhs, right? So it could be 6, 8, whatever, no, depending on the kind of car you are looking at. You don't need to go and service the car. You don't need to pay for the petrol of the car. You don't need to really have some kind of a parking area where the car needs to be cleaned and maintained and stuff like that. But you want to go from point A to point B. From, let's say, your India Gate, you want to go to some other place. So what is the benefit you are getting? You can book either Ola or Uber on a demand basis, and you have an option to choose whether you want a drive for 4 people or 6 people, and some places it's even more than that. Some people, or you, let's say you want to just book an economical kind of an option where you want to pay less money, but you want to go from point A to point B. Then you can always use something called as an Uber share or Ola share. So what is the benefit you are getting out of it? So you are not buying the car, you are not spending on the petrol, you are not spending on the maintenance of car, or you are not servicing the car, but you are still moving from point A to point B. So you are leaving all the heavy lifting or all the hard work to the Ola app or the Ola driver. In turn, you are getting all these benefits, but you are of course paying some money, right? So you are not getting it for free. Nobody is not taking you from point A to point B without any cost. But you got the analogy, right? So you can think about cloud computing this way. So now you want to build a software. So you are only worried about building a software, but don't have an assumption that this cloud computing will build a software also for you. No, if that was the case, there would be thousands of apps today, right? No, it's not that way. It gives you all the platform. Still, you have to kind of know what services you want to use for the idea which you are having in your mind, and then you need to ensure that you are implementing using the services available. So Ola, Uber analogy is just to give you a kind of a high level idea what exactly is happening in cloud computing, but still you have to book the app, right? So Ola driver doesn't come and automatically pick you and take you from point A to point B. He would not have an assumption where you are supposed to get picked and get dropped and things like that. No, you still have to do that. So that is where whatever you are doing when you are using Ola or Uber is what you are trying to do when you are having this idea to build a software. So you have to still connect the dots. You should know what is the services you are probably looking at and what is the idea you are trying to sell. Then you can ensure that you are leveraging this particular kind of tools. So I'll give an example. Okay, so this is like classic architecture, right? So if you talk about architectures, you have something like this is let's say one more app or some kind of a platform they have built. So they have classic data, they have machine learning, and they have applications. So applications here, so when you talk about data, so they have inventory data, so they want to save the inventory of what's happening in the system, the purchases, let's say reviews, cloud wish lists. So these are all saved. So whatever you're looking at, there are two here, right? One is the data and where you are saving it. You are saving in a cloud service called as Cloud SQL from Google Cloud. So then you have something called as ETL, extract, transform, and what is the other one? ETL, right? So ETL is what happens is it will kind of do lot of data extractions. It will transform data, and it will be kind of it's something called as data mining, and it gives you data in a specific format. For example, no, if you have an app where people are just typing, let's say it's a chatting app, and you want to kind of filter out certain messages from certain people and send it to another engine, so which will be doing all these things and sending you the normalized data. If you want to finally at the end of the day you want to see what is the kind of storage people are using, or what are the kind of data they are trying to mine from there, you can use these kind of services. And obviously once you have the data ready, you can feed it into various machine learning related services which Google Cloud provides. And believe me, this is very, very powerful. So what we are looking at, what we are talking about, it's like just the kind of, we are touching the surface of the ocean. If you want to get into machine learning in Google Cloud, there are excellent services. So I would highly recommend you. If you want to know a little bit more, you can ping me sometime later. I can give you a lot of links to go and explore more. So there are excellent machine learning related features or the services in Google Cloud itself, which can be leveraged. And at the end of the day, you will use all these machine learning features and you will be feeding it into your app or the software you have built. Maybe let's say in terms of in app, which is something like, let us say something like one of the most popular apps is, let's say, Big Basket, right? So it will show you the inventory of vegetables, fruits, or the groceries available, and then it will show a list of stores which probably is delivering this kind of vegetables and fruits, and the kind of thing which you get at the end of the day as an end user is just the app. You're not worried about anything else, but they might have hosted in something like what you are seeing in the architecture. So, and then finally, right, you would have something like applications. Obviously every app will have an application engine, so they would be having these kind of screens, whatever you see, in the app. So the first screen which has list of inventory, once you select them, you put them into your cart, and the cart you will check out. Then you will pay easy using your credit card, or it could be something like maybe it's a Google Pay or something like that. So these are all various screens you have. So each screen will be something like an endpoint, which could be connected to app engine or a compute engine in the background in your cloud world. So this is your, like, you are looking at the entire app architecture here. So if you look at this alone, you can build an app. Just look at the power which this particular slide has, right? So, and this is like a classic architecture, like I said. So using these things, if you have an idea, you can build a software here, right? It's something which probably nobody could have imagined, right? Doing if back in, let's say, 2010 or 2000, right? So you had to have, like I said earlier, whole set of inventory available, whole set of infrastructure available for you to even dream of doing something like that. But today, with these services available, of course there is a cost involved. It's not coming free. It's not like each and everything we are seeing here is like free and you go and build whatever you want. But there will be something called as cloud credits and stuff like that. And then one more beauty of the cloud computing is the more you use, the more time you reserve these things, they will give more discounts. So that's how it is, right? So, but now, okay, now you know what is cloud computing. So the context, if you look at the agenda, we looked at what are the benefits, we looked at certain features which Google Cloud provides, and what are all the what is a classic Google Cloud architecture when you are talking about an app or a software. But then the next part is how can I even start that, right? So now we'll come to something called as Qwiklabs. So Qwiklabs is one of the premier providers for Google Cloud Computing kind of education as well as exploration, I would say. So it was founded in 2012 and it was acquired in 2016 by Google themselves, right? So just imagine the kind of popularity it has. So this is just some screenshots. I'll try to go and show you how we do that exactly. So let's go into the demo time right away. Just let me know if you're able to see the screen.
Yes, sir.
So I've just logged in using my account. So Sejal, you have some idea to share some credits, or how do you want to take it post session?
No, sir. We just wanted to give them a briefing right now.
Okay, all right, yeah. So maybe I'll work with you. We'll see whether we can provide some kind of 30-day free trial kind of option, no, where everyone can go and create their accounts, no, and then start leveraging this particular tool.
Okay, sir.
So this is the landing page of Qwiklabs. So I'll tell you two things, right? So one is like you have cloud computing and you need to have an account, a Google account. You have to have some kind of options, or you have to provide your credit cards, and only then you get to start the usage, right? So you cannot go and click on cloud computing because it involves cost, right? Most of the times. But with Qwiklabs, there is something called as credits, right? So I'll show you what we can do here. So for example, you have catalog. So you have various list of there is something called as quest here. So it's like what these people do, right? They have an excellent way of combining certain set of topics, right? So, and you have to kind of explore each one of them. You have 30 minutes to do something called as a lab. So it's like, for example, creating a virtual machine. So if I say creating a virtual machine in cloud world, you have to get into the app. You'll have to again start using creating, and at the end of the day there might be some cost involved. But here what happens is you can do something called a start lab. It's like a virtual lab. You can think like it's like a virtual lab. And the beauty of it is, right, so I mean, currently probably it's not allowing me. Let me use another account. Just give me a second. Just give me a second. Okay, now I've used another account. So let me show you. Okay, see, these are all, for example, here you get something called as quest, like I told. So what you need to do is you go and register yourself. So you can go to this quest and you can register. So what this will be is like a set of, it's like a bundled package of courses, right? There are about 4 or 5 Qwiklabs. This might not be the one. We'll go to creating a virtual machine. So what it does is it will give you an option to go and start utilizing this particular feature. So let's say now I say I want to understand how to create a virtual machine. So now you can open Google Console. It will provide you username, password, which are temporarily, and it will be active for 40 minutes. So it will give you something like a student username, password. So you can log in, copy password, and each and every Google Cloud related task is called as a project in Cloud World. So there is something called as project. So now I'll get into this particular lab. So now what I am supposed to do here is I have set of instructions available already in the Qwiklabs quest. If you look at it here, if I just scroll down, these are all self-paced labs, like I said, virtual labs. So you can read here like what exactly we are trying to do here, right? Like for example, it says what is the compute engine. It lets you create virtual machines of various operating systems, something like Linux, it could be Windows, on Google Cloud infrastructure. So here you will have set of commands. You will have even set of prerequisites. For example, when you are trying to create a Linux virtual machine, if you have some kind of familiarity with Linux commands like VI editors or copy command, things like that. So that is what they kind of recommend. And then you will have to, it's very simple. You have to just follow these particular steps. So now what we did here, we have actually used that particular student account, which will be active for us for 40 minutes. And we can go ahead and do some kind of hands-on directly. Look at the beauty of it. No, you don't need to have an account. Like you don't need to have a Google Cloud account itself. What you're having is a Qwiklabs account. So Qwiklabs in turn is providing you this option to get into the compute engine, and you have a list of all the things available here. For example, in virtual machines itself, you have something called as templates, you have machine images. I mean, you can explore on all these things. So let's look at creating one virtual machine. So like I said, virtual machine is a computer or a set of softwares which you install, which is somewhere in virtual world. You don't directly have access. So here you can go there and you can right away follow these particular instructions verbatim. You don't need to do anything more. There is something called as Cloud Shell as well. So this is another beautiful feature where you can get something like a virtual shell. So what happens is like you can run commands directly here. Like you have a Linux kind of console or a terminal. Here you get that kind of option where it will provision and you can write certain kind of commands directly here. And then, for example, it could be ls command to look at the files. You can even, there's something called as gcloud commands, right? Like you have in Linux. So you can provision a virtual machine from here directly using gcloud commands. So these are all like things which you can explore as and when you go start kind of exploring more on this cloud computing world. Gcloud is there, and there you have something called as big data utility, butil or something like that is there. Then you have you can think like instead of going and clicking here and kind of provisioning a virtual machine, you can write a script over here which does that for you. I mean, the classic example could be, let's say there is a requirement for you to provision 10 virtual machines. So there are, okay, what are all the options you might have? You go and create 10 virtual machines. That is one. That is time taking, time consuming. It's irritating. There is a chance, you might do some mistakes when you're creating the fourth one. First 3 you created correctly, but you chose something which was incorrect in the fourth machine. So instead of that, what you can do, you can create something called as a template. So the template, you can reuse the template. Like I said, here there is something called new virtual machines from template. So the template you can use every time, and you can provision 10 machines in the same template. So and you can obviously rename them with different names, right? So it will not be having same name. And then you can even write something called as a in the G Cloud world, there are certain packages which will provision a suite of virtual machines for you. So, and one more thing, right? What you need to keep in mind here is, whenever you try to provision a particular virtual machine and all, in this cloud Qwiklab world, the advantage is you are not charged anything. Like I said, this particular lab is only active for me for 35 minutes. So after 35 minutes, what happens? It will deactivate. So you have, from Qwiklabs, it is very clear. You don't need to spend more than 35 minutes to understand this particular virtual machine, how it works. You want to understand, you can leverage the time alone. So let's try to create one virtual machine. We can call it, like, let's say app 1. So labels are just to identify that. Like I said, there is something called as region. Region is the area. It's just like a geography. It could be US Central 1, Europe. It could be in Asia, let's say Mumbai, right? So, and there is something called as zone again. In zone is nothing but one level. Inside a region, there could be various availability domains or availability zones, they call. So the advantage with this is one particular Mumbai region might have, let's say, two areas, two data centers where they maintain this kind of stuff. No, for example, one could be in Bandra and one could be in, let's say, Doryville or somewhere. And if there is some kind of a disaster in Bandra, the other zone will ensure that none of the infrastructure is getting affected, because in turn they are having maintaining these things somewhere else, right? So that is where region comes into mind. And every time, another excellent feature with Google Cloud is it will give you something called as cost estimate here. If you look at it at the right hand side, it is already showing me it's $30 monthly estimate, and I have not even chosen anything. So it's like the basic cost or the price you are paying for leveraging. And for each region, it would be varying. For example, it's always recommended to have these things which are close to where you are working. Ideally, let's say I choose Singapore region, so it is $31, right? So I can choose. For example, I can host it either in US region or Asia, anywhere I want. No, and then you have something called as machine configuration. Like I told you earlier, you have flavors. Like you have always anything which you are talking about in terms of cloud computing is all about memory, CPU, and storage. You need to keep in mind, and every particular use case demands its own set of memory or storage, what you are looking for example. And one more thing I'll tell you here, right? So now that we are looking at various shapes available and all, you can probably, you do have an option now where you can choose something which is as good as NASA related experiments, if you want to do, right? Let's say you want to go and build some kind of a rocket launcher software or things like that, which were crazy and which was probably you couldn't have even envisioned doing something like that earlier. But now I'll tell you, with Google Cloud and other cloud providers, there are options where you can leverage CPUs and RAMs which are as powerful as a supercomputer. So just imagine. So that is of course, they will cost you more. That is a different thing, but you can do that. See, for example, if I chose E2 high memory, the cost has almost gone up to $82 per month. So you can look at your requirement, what is the solution you are trying to provide, what is that you want to kind of have. So, and based on that, you can choose. See, if I choose E2 Micro, which has 2 CPUs, it hardly costs $8 per month. So that is the beauty of it. No? So let's go ahead. And then you have something called as containers, and these are all Docker related stuff and all. No? You can explore a bit more on that. Let me not go into these things. And then you can choose the kind of image you want. For example, Debian Linux, or I think you might have CentOS, Red Hat Linux, right? And you can have boot disk, which is 20 GB, and you can change it to 200 gigs. So look at the flexibility it's providing. You can give, let's say, 2000 bytes. I mean, there are some restrictions, of course, but 200 gigs, right? So you can choose, or you can even have your own custom images. Let's say you have a custom image. You want to use the same image and build multiple virtual machines. You can create one virtual machine, install everything, take that as an image. So that particular image or a snapshot can be used to provision or kind of spin multiple virtual machines. So that is one more option you have. And once you are fine with this, let's select Red Hat Linux, and you can control the access here, default access or cloud API access, stuff like that. And then you have firewalls like this, you understand, right? HTTP start traffic or HTTPS. Then something called as you would probably have to choose a network, like I said, it's all about where you want to host it in the region. You ideally know what we do when we provision things. We create something called as a virtual network. So that network will be something specific to your project. And you need to keep in mind, this is something called as a project here. What I have kind of highlighted now, no, Qwiklabs. So this will be your soft project. So this will be unique for every project will have its own unique name. So if two of you are trying to do either Qwiklabs or you have your own Google Cloud account, these project names will always be universally unique. So it will not be repeating at all. So you can, and then it will show how much you will be built. So then you finally create it. See, now this is all I did. I chose some shape and I chose what is the storage I was looking for, and I clicked create. So in the back end, it is provisioning a virtual machine for me. Just look at the beauty of it, no? So you don't need to go buy a laptop or create a data center. Then you want to have a CD which has your bootable software operating system installed in it, or you need to have some kind of data center to store the data. Just imagine. See, now instead of that, I just went into this Google Cloud. I chose what is the virtual machine I am looking for. I chose the configuration. I chose the shape which I was suiting my requirement, right? So, and the machine is up and ready. So once you see this green, it says machine is already running because we chose a very small shape, right? So it was easy. So you can do an SSH here directly. So when you do that, it will take you to the shell where it will show what are all the things which you want to install once you have provisioned the machine. See, you already are in the machine now. So now you can go and see what is there. It's an empty machine now, right? So you can go and do maybe yum install or something, right? So you can it's now up to you, the machine, what you want to do here. Let's say sudo yum install Python, for example. So it will look for Python software and install it for you. So now what happens, now that you have a virtual machine, you can create all the softwares you want to have in this, and you can start leveraging this, and you can build the application. It's as simple as that, right? So, and then on top of this, there are various features. You can create kind of security layers here, right? So for example, and one more thing you need to remember here is it will come up with its own external IP, internal IP and stuff like that. So you can explore a bit more on this. This was just an example. And this is as part of the lab alone, right? So that is where beyond that 40 minutes, this will not be even there. They will take it off. So that is the beauty of it. So our intention was just to learn how to kind of provision a virtual machine, which we have done. And to be very safe and to ensure that we are understanding what we are doing, we can follow these steps verbatim. These are all very self-explanatory, right? And it's very well done actually. If you look at it, it will say what you need to do, and it even gives you the screenshots you need to refer to. And once you do this, you can run certain commands, explore a bit more on this. Like I said, regions, zones, they explain what it is. Then there is an option which says how to create instance from the Cloud Console. So this is what we have done now. So, and then you can go and install certain things. Here they are trying to do sudo su, and they are installing some software, Nginx or something, some web related software they're installing. And at the end of the day, right, once you do all these things, you can check your progress here. For us, it will not be successful because we have not even chosen that Debian Linux. We try to install Red Hat Linux, right? Just for example, I showed you. So you can follow all these things and you can check your progress at the end of each step. And at the end of it, right, it will show you even how you can create this kind of cloud related virtual machines using command line. Like I said earlier, right, like there is something called as Gcloud. So you can run this command, Gcloud compute instances create, and you provide the instance name, machine type, which region or zone you want to choose, and it's going to create something similar. So at the end of everything, you can check your progress here. And what happens is at the end of the thing, it will even ask you certain questions. There is something called as test your knowledge here, Q&A. So you choose certain things and you submit them. It's like at the end of it, you will get something called as a quest badge. So this is the quest badge actually. So the more and more labs you take, you can kind of start collecting this Quest badges. So it's not for the sake of Quest badges we are doing, right? So the idea behind it should be to learn something or explore something like Google Cloud. At the end of it, you will get benefit of even getting these badges and things like that, right? So these are all virtual. So for me, if you look at it, this was just one. I mean, I don't think I even wanted to continue this. Okay, I stopped that. So I can do an exit, right? So, and you can always either terminate these virtual machines yourself, or at the end of the class, it will do it on its own, like I said. So that is also very easy. So you can just click that and you can have an option somewhere here. But maybe they have given some restricted access here, considering it's a Qwiklabs thing. No, they might restrict you not to delete or create any kind of machines, right? Here, otherwise you would have some option here to select it and probably even delete, terminate it. Or here it's there, see, stop, suspend. So when you stop these virtual machines, no, they will not charge you. So what happens, there is something called as per minute billing here. Let's say, like I said, an example of a Dream 11 app. So Dream 11 app, let's say they want to have this up and running on every Saturday. So they don't want this app to be available all the days of the week. So why should you be paying for 5 days in a week when the app is not even used? So you want the app to be charged only during the weekends. So that is what is the beauty of cloud computing, where you can have these kind of options where you either reserve the app to be operating only on specific days. Only those days you will have your virtual machines up and running with the memory you have chosen. All other days you can opt to have a lower configuration when the traffic is very low. So you can do stop, suspend, you can even delete that. You can even monitor how this virtual machine is doing. And you can even take a machine image, like I said earlier, no? If you want to install all these softwares here, then you can do that in one machine, take a machine image as a template, and you can start creating another set of machines. So this is one example, like I said, no? So this is about one example where you leverage Qwiklabs, right? So Qwiklabs, like I said, there are a lot of paths here. So what I would say, no, once you get access over here, you will start leveraging. For example, I have done, let's say, in this account, something like creating virtual app, which we did just now. There's something called cloud architecture. If you see cloud architecture, it has its own set of what you say learning path here. For example, using how you use Kubernetes, and there is a lab to create this CI/CD pipeline kind of thing, right? And there will be something called as virtual networks. How do you create them? How do you communicate between different virtual networks, things like that. And there is something called site reliability engineering here. So if you complete all this as a lab, so at the end of every lab, if you complete successfully, you will get something called as, like I said, a tick mark here. So it will show in green. So once it shows in green and you complete the entire set of labs, so it is going to give you something called as a badge. So here, if I had completed that, it would have given me a badge. So the beauty of it is, like, you can learn and explore a lot of concepts in cloud computing, specifically with Google Cloud using Qwiklabs. So you don't, and if you are not sure, hey, what is the path I need to choose, there are a lot of recommendations. If you look at it here, right, they give you something called as very popular labs, no? Like, what are all the things which in general people are using, which is very useful if you are a newbie, right? So it's highly rated apps. So this kind of stuff. Or what is the thing you are trying to solve? You want to become an infrastructure expert or machine learning expert or security backup, things like that. So let's say I want to become more and more comfortable with machine learning. So once I click that particular thing, it's going to give me set of labs which I can leverage, right, or learn from. So here, if you look at it, you have something called create machine learning models with BigQuery. So this is the quest name, and the approximate time it takes to complete this is about 7 hours, and it's a fundamental course. And this is one more thing I forgot to tell you. There's something called as credits. So what happens usually when we get these 1 month free Google Cloud Qwiklabs kind of what is that credit? No, you can use that to maybe register for all the courses which are available here. Set of all the courses. Sometimes there will be a restricted actions. So you can do something called as buying the credits. So each credit costs, let's say, $3 or $5 or something. and once and as and when you go and buy these credits, you can go and take the labs. So this is like a pay as you go kind of model. So even they have made a Google Cloud, have made a cloud computing concept out of Qwiklabs also, if you look at it in a different way. No, so you want to learn only, let's say, machine learning models, and you don't have any credit. So you buy, let's say, 35 credits only to do this lab. So you are not paying $100 or whatever it is to explore other things which you are not interested in. That subscription is just you're paying only 34 credits, and you are learning this particular concept, and you use it for up to 7 hours. It's as simple as that, right? So it's as good as pay as you go model. So this is one more thing you can learn in the Qwiklabs itself, the way they are leveraging something called as pay as you go, which is one more classic concept in your cloud computing, right? So you can register like this, and at the end of every lab you get that credits. So sometimes they even give some kind of certifications, if you see here. I mean, these are not like cloud certifications, but something which you can put in your LinkedIn and things like that, like a badge. You are part of Qwiklabs, Quick Learning, Quest Explorer or something like that. There is a kind of a popular, I would say, not a game, popular contest kind of thing, which you can have among yourselves. So who collects more badges and all. But that doesn't mean you should simply go and click the labs without understanding and all. The idea should be to get to know what is the advantage of leveraging Qwiklabs, how you want to use Google Cloud as a whole, or explore more concepts in that, so that you can build something new. I mean, that is what you should be your takeaway. No, just try to explore the Qwiklabs and try to know how cloud computing works on whole, but don't do this just to collect the badges, right? It's at the end of 1 year it will become waste. No, badges will mean nothing if you have not understood how or why you are learning what you are doing, right? So that is the thing. So this is about the Qwiklabs. Now let us see one more thing. Okay, now I have small data here, right? So if you ask me, hey, why I need to learn, if you still ask me, I'm not interested in building app, I'm not interested in building software, why should I learn Google Cloud or any cloud in general? Obviously, it all comes down to what is the industry paying people who are experts, right? So this is an average data collected in 2019. This number, again, like I said, it's an average or kind of a median number, but the ones who are Google Cloud certified were paid amongst the highest in the software industry. So that is the beauty of it. No, if you are looking just to get into software industry, and I'm not telling you if you do this certification you will start getting it from day one, but on an average, like I said, these people were the highest paid. So now let's go to a quick quiz. Can anyone tell who is this? Someone who answers will get some Qwiklab credits. Any guesses? Okay, he's Thomas Korean. Google about him. Okay, and what about this guy? Any guesses? Anyone? Sejal, anyone?
Yes, so one answer, Larry Page.
Absolutely. Congratulations. That is correct.
That's Mayank Goswami.
Yeah, nice, Mayank. Okay, so now I will even share this set of resources which you can start using. Right, there are primarily, if your intention is to learn more about Google Cloud, you can use cloud.google.com/training, which has excellent resources. You can start using that as a starting point. Then you can get into cloud.google.com/GCP, and there are some excellent articles which are written by Satish as well. So I have given this as well. It usually, this is something which gives kind of Qwiklabs free codes and stuff like that. See, at the end of the day, you being still learning, right? You are not into industry, so you don't want to start, you don't need to spend money to explore these things, right? That is where you need to start leveraging these free credits and stuff like that. So there would be certain contests, sometimes there will be some offers from the cloud lab, even you can talk to your colleges, right? So to see how whether you can get kind of a kind of either in terms of a discounted Qwiklabs as a whole, as a bundle package, or in many cases they provide a lot of free codes every month, right? So you have to start using that, and let me see, I will work with Sejal and see whether we can get some kind of free credits for whoever has attended today, so you can start exploring that. So these are all main resources. You can, if you want to take a screenshot, you can take. This is like having a lot of information here. Anyways, let me type it in the chat as well, the entire set of websites. Okay, and that is the end of the presentation as a whole. I think you are from northern part of India, right? Sejal, you are from Delhi?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. So I would say Shukriya.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, sir. But I'll just ask everyone to drop in their doubts in the chat box,
yes,
or unmute yourself and ask them yourself personally.
yes, either way works. So if in case they have anything specific which we can discuss now, if it's I can take maybe a couple of questions. Else they can directly reach out to me. I'll give my Twitter handle.
Sure,
let me just type it over here. Can you please explain skill badge? Okay, so like I said, no, this is something called as see, you have a set of questions which are not even set of questions, I would say, set of labs. So now what you do with these labs is like we saw, we went and created a virtual machine, right? So similar to that, you have to follow the instructions provided. You go and provision a, let's say, Qwiklabs, which provisions a virtual machine, and you follow the instructions. At the end of every step, there will be something called as a track your progress. If you have done it the right way, it will mark it as completed on its own, right? So at the end of it, so what you have to do is you will have to start completing that in stipulated time of 45 minutes or 1 hour. And once you complete that, you get something called as a skill badge. So this is like it's like kind of a, what you say, a stamp or some kind of a proof that you have spent 45 minutes or let's say 2 hours to complete this particular activity. So you can collect these skill badges. It's like, it's nothing but it's like something like an ID card. No, you can say that you belong to this college. So this skill, whatever quest certificates or kind of badges you have, it gives kind of confidence to the people who you are talking to, that you have indeed done this kind of introductory course, or you have explored a bit. That is the idea behind it. So now, like I said, it's not fully free of cost. So what it is like, there are a lot of kind of options which you have when you register for the first time. There are certain codes available which will be available, and Google and Qwiklabs themselves give a lot of free codes actually. So what I will try to get is, I'll try to get some kind of free code for whoever has registered here and share it with Sejal and team. No, so you can start probably leveraging that and start using that code to log in. So only thing you need to do is you need to create an account. See, obviously everybody will have an email ID, right? So you will create an account using your email ID, and first time you log in, it will ask for the particular code. So when you provide that code, it will give you 1 month free access for the Qwiklabs, right, as a whole. So you can go and start using any of the labs which are available, and you do it in a certain way. No, you don't need to click anything or everything you see. You go to a section which I showed, which gives you the best set of courses available. So once that is done, so what you need to do is you need to just start using the particular set of instructions in that particular lab, and you start learning from there. Right? Did that answer the question, Mayank? And of course, there is an option for you to always go and start buying the credits. So there is some cost involved where you can pay X amount to get 1 credit. and each lab costs X credits, right? Let's say one lab might cost 4 credits. So if you have kind of either used this 1 month free codes available, beyond that, if you want to still continue or still learn, you can go ahead and you can always buy some credits, and it will give you that option to use the lab for X number of hours. It's like I said, pay as you pay and go kind of demand, no? Pay as you use or demand on demand kind of model which we have. Any other questions? Let me share the screen of in the screenshots. All these. These are the websites. The first set came with some junk character added. You can someone take a screenshot and share with others maybe? No, these are all the websites you need to start leveraging.
Sure, sir. I'll just share it with them.
Yes. So Mayank has another question. Maybe I'll just answer this. How machine learning and artificial intelligence can be implemented? Yeah, I mean, I would not tell you how. I mean, I would let you explore that. Like I said, there are a lot of inbuilt services for machine learning. So I'll give you a few hints here. You can start learning about. For a starter, no, you can start with this, right? So called Big SQL. You can start leveraging all these services, and you can start exploring a little bit more. But go slow. You don't need to start. Scope of a Google Cloud developer, like I said, you saw that screenshot, no, which gave information on what is the kind of expectation from the industry. So they expect whoever is coming into industry or those who are in industry to know cloud computing as a default now. So it's always advisable to kind of start exploring that. And Google Cloud developers have really high demand, I would say. That is what we are looking at. Okay, any other thing, Sejal?
No, sir, but if there's anything else, they can contact you personally, I think.
I'll share my Twitter handle. Just a second.
Sure, sir.
Be free to ping me. It's fine. I can answer any of these. This is my Twitter handle.
All right, sir. I think that's enough for today for them, I guess. And
Yes.
if they have any other doubts, they'll personally contact you. And thank you, sir. Thank you for such an informative session. And we hope that students were, well informed by now and are exploring this platform already. So thank you, sir. And I hope if there's any other doubt, you can ask. Otherwise, you guys can leave now.
Sure then. Thanks everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Bye bye.